cool that the new iPhones can do this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a little button there that you turn on. It makes it way easier than the way I used to do it. So, yeah. I used to have a
Nice.
recorder next to the phone in the bathroom so no one would talk to me. So, all right, we'll get going. So, Richie Deal, are you missing it?
Um, Not really. I mean, just looking at the temperatures and everything, I I'm fine where I am. But I mean, I do miss traveling down the trail with the dogs, and you get to see some of the best country in Iditarod.
Right,
So
right. So, how many runs did you make? I did, Rod?
11.
11. Yeah. So give me your take on what you're seeing on the race so far. I mean, Pete, he pushed out a little bit. Well, let me start first. This is the question I keep thinking in the back of my mind. When you're on a trail like this trail between Ophir and Cripple, um, and that's not a really regularly traveled trail, and you're going along, and Pete went past where a lot of the other teams were camping. How do you pick out a spot, and how does it go? I mean, you're cruising along, you look at your watch, and you're like, okay, this is the time to stop. And well, how does that all play out?
I mean, it's just, all depends how the dogs are doing and what certain camping spots look like. That, where all those guys are camped right now, it's this Carlson Crossing cabin, and it's kind of in the trees, and it's kind of a hard place because there's no like trail into the trees to get to it. You kind of got to weave your team in there, and there's normally like one snow machine track into the trees, and um
Now, have you
so
seen where Pete is now?
yeah, he's like 9-10 miles past there. And it, from what I remember, it was you're out in the open, and then you kind of go into little tree portages here and there.
And then,
um
but with I guess what I was thinking about was with all the snow and all the stuff, is it more difficult to pick a spot there and have to kind of get everything situated, or do you just camp right up next to the trail, or how does that all work?
yeah, it's definitely a lot harder to pick spots when you have all that snow. But sometimes, in those open areas, the spots aren't that bad. But everything that I've heard, I think there's a lot of snow. But sometimes the trail breakers or other snow machines will have little pull-offs just randomly here and there, and you can go into their snow machine track right off the trail and use that as a good camping spot. So, I just looking at his what he did, I mean, I'm kind of wondering if he's thinking of maybe breaking these runs into 3 even runs and to get to Ruby.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of what I was thinking. I don't know. But normally we would, every almost every Iditarod I had done around Pete, we'd go to Carlson or near Carlson Crossing Cabin where all those other teams are, and then you'd have 2 even like 6 hour runs to to Cripple. And then the tricky part after doing that though is you had to make a decision if you were going to do a long run from Cripple to Ruby, or you take a short break in between somewhere there. So I mean, if Pete's trying to break it into 3 even runs to get to Ruby, I think I mean, it seemed like a great idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I was thinking this also, and you don't have to give up the secret to the golden goose, but you two are like peas in the pod, and I just know that when it's summer and when it's whatever, you sit down and have a beer or whatever, you're thinking, both of you, about how that all plays out for an entire year, aren't you? I mean, you're always thinking about how that all plays out, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely throwing ideas out back and forth, but man, like you don't you don't make that decision until you're in the moment, and you know what your dogs are looking like. I mean, you can't go and do all these big moves or different moves if you don't have the dog team to do it. And
Sure. No, no, I was just thinking about,
so,
you know,
but yeah, I mean, definitely
alternatives. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely alternatives, and um, so I mean,
Well,
he's just trying something different here, maybe, or maybe he just wanted to go a little further. So I don't
yeah.
know. It's interesting because first the whole first half of the race threw me kind of for a curveball. There was a bunch of teams that camped at this cabin before Nikolai, and I was assuming all those teams would go to Ophir or on to Cripple, and most of them stopped in Takotna, and that's just the decisions you have to make based off your dog team and what's happening on the trail.
Have you, in all of your races, did you always stop at Takatna?
No, I've done Ophir a couple times, and
So right
McGrath
now,
once.
I'm gonna call you right back because they are Snow Machine One is with Pete right now.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
bye.
Yeah, quick stop there because one of the it's really cool, with the little Starlink minis and all that stuff that we can see, pretty much live shots on the trail, which is just
Yeah,
something I've been really, really, we get to see what, well, you get to see be us now as spectator,
yeah. I think as a mush, if I was a musher and I had to deal with that, I think it'd be pretty annoying,
Yeah, yeah.
personally.
Well, but for me, I mean, I've written on
Yeah,
this race for 16 years, and so a lot of it's my imagination, and so you're trying to figure out, okay, what really is happening, and gathering all the information, and like we're having now, and kind of put it in my brain, and be able
yeah,
to kind of describe what might be happening, and it's always what might be happening.
yeah,
But the fans are kind of in the same way, and that's why it's really cool to have you not racing. It's not cool to have you not racing because we want you racing, but on the other
yeah,
hand, having your perspective is really awesome.
yeah.
Um,
No, I get it.
yeah. So how stepping back from start to now, how do you see what's your take on the race?
I I think there's just a lot still up in the air. There's, you know, I don't know, 6 to 7 teams, I think, that are kind of not really standing out, but they're a little ahead of everybody else. But there's still, like, I don't know, a lot of times it's a pretty well defined, like, 7, 8 teams, by now. But I just don't think that we have that yet. And I think maybe some of that's because I don't know, no teams went on to Cripple this year, which was kind of unusual, but I I can see why with the temperatures and everything that was going on with teams getting wet going into McGrath. But
Yeah, the one that we just for the listener, we just stopped real quick to watch one of the insider crews, and they were describing -40 last night.
mhm.
Um, so
I
let's
I
talk. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, I bet you anything it's a lot colder than that this morning. Like, it's probably 50, 60 below in some of those low spots going to Cripple.
Right.
So
So I I just I the coldest I was ever at was 53. And how do you deal with that? Because you were in the Huslia race, weren't you?
yeah, I've did both those Fairbanks starts that were really cold. One instant that stood out to me, and that was I went through Manly one year, and at the checkpoint, the checker there, it was early in the morning, and the guy there told me, he goes, "Yeah, it's like 60 below right now here in Manly," and I went and camped on the river, and the whole time I couldn't lay down. I had to run back and forth, and I tried laying in the snowbank, and it was pointless. Yeah,
I
so
just can't imagine it. Oh my goodness. Um,
yeah.
something keeps coming back to me, and it's nothing against Jesse Holmes because he seems to have a really nice team, but it always seems like there's been a lot of folks that have gone to Ruby and got the dinner and not made it to the not I shouldn't say not made it, but not won the race. Um,
Mhm.
and is that kind of what you're talking about? It's really not defined yet as to how it settles out or how it's going to settle out.
I mean, I think by the time they get to the Yukon, we're gonna know more here.
Yeah.
But I mean, his team is definitely everything that I've seen and how he's moving down the trail. Um, they're a strong looking team. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I
he
was
just took a short break there, and I'm kind of scratching my head, what he's doing, what his plan is. So that's going to be interesting how that plays out here for him getting to Ruby. I
right.
think it was like a 2 hour break or something on the trail that he.
It wasn't very long. Yeah, exactly.
So
I was surprised that he went and 24'd into Katna. I kind of thought that he would push out because he had a lead there, but he but he stayed this 24 there and then kept on going because it seemed like I remember him not doing that before. Um, but there's a lot of nice teams there in the beginning, that are there's Pete and Paige and Matt Hall and all these teams that are really fine looking and fine performing. They have really good teams. Something that I also was thinking about here. I called Myron yesterday for a question, and he was kind of talking about Jesse's team and kind of like it seemed to me kind of from the perspective kind of like a basketball team or whatever. When you think you have a high school team, for example, that's a really strong team, and then they all come back the next year. Is that
mhm.
something that happens? When you have a really good, solid group there, and you do well the next year, if they all come back and they're all healthy, the team performs similar.
I mean, I wouldn't say perform similar, but there's definitely a core group of dogs in those teams that they know the routine, and they're pretty headstrong. I mean, a lot of the teams that have won multiple Iditarods and they win them in a stretch. There's a core of 10 dogs or so in there that always carry the load at some point. And Jesse has that in his team, and that's I'm sure he's going to be banking off of that experience.
Sure, sure,
Oh,
yeah. That's
so
kind of was wondering about. It's kind of like the you just said the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl. If you can keep that team together, then maybe the next season will be you can kind of
mhm.
rely on having a good thing. So you're saying basically that's kind of how it goes. Once you got a core
Yeah.
group, you can move forward with that.
Yeah, and
Um,
I mean you definitely, but you have to. There's so much with mushing though that you have to factor in. They could get sick, they're um the trail conditions. I mean like you were saying, I was completely. I mean not completely, but I was a little shocked he stopped in Tecotna after camping in between McGrath and Nikolai. I thought he was going to go to Ophir or Cripple.
yeah, no,
So
I was scratching my head there. Something that Pete said yesterday in the Staccato interview was about he was talking about um, the team out here, where you're trained. It's you don't have to deal with the corners and the hills necessarily and all this stuff. And once you get into town, you got to basically train on the trail. And now he's sent 3 veterans home, and so he's got half young, half not.
hmm
Do you? How does that go during a race where you have a little bit of an inexperienced team, but do they in the race does it kind of like training and they start to kind of get it? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
yeah, I mean it's hard to say that they get it because they're trying to do it in such a short period of time.
Right.
Um, it always seemed like, when I would get through the Alaska range with a bigger team, I always had pretty experienced dogs at the back they were really good at maneuvering and winding around. I was always in the same position as Pete though, we'd train in open country, and you don't you don't really do that windy stuff going up and down hills, and so it's tricky for a younger dog, if especially if they're in the back of the team, middle or back of the team,
Hmm.
to maneuver. So, and it was funny because I watched Kevin Hansen's video too, and he said the same thing, and he's another guy that trains out in the wide open
Right.
country, where there's no windy stuff. So
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I was thinking about is how you and Pete for several years there trained in town, Eureka and some of this other stuff. Was that helpful? Did that help out in that section, or in this race where they got a little bit of that before, the actual race?
Yeah, I definitely I've thought about that like when we were in the Nana and stuff. Yeah, I do think that that helped a lot. I mean, because yeah, same kind of situation, narrow trails, dogs having to wind up and down hills and um but yeah, I think that there were, you know, those teams were a little more prepared for that going through the Alaska range part.
Right.
So
So after you're 24, you're kind of, whether it's north or south, you got a long run to Caltech. Um, how do you mentally? I mean, do you get a pretty good recharge in that 24, where this is kind of like the start of a new race, or tell us how that goes?
I mean, you definitely get recharged, but I don't. I mean, you're not you're not fully, you know. I don't think that you're fully like recharged. I mean, you're just set to keep going, and it's weird because it's like in some ways it's kind of like the start of the race where you have a little lull at the beginning, and you got to work back into that rhythm.
Hmm.
Um, and then once you're in the rhythm, I don't. It's to me, it's just you're kind of turned into a robot, and you just do your dog chores, do all the little things, and keep a good eye on the team as you're moving down the trail.
How many
So
days does it take to get into that routine where I mean, if you're going 6-4 and 6-4, it just seems like that would be, and I've seen you guys at the end, you're kind of in a grog.
yeah, yeah. I this From the start of the race, I always have one day where I was always, in a little bit of a lull. But then after that first day, like you know, kind of going from Tin Creek to Nikolai, I would kind of get with it. But the 24, it's not long. I mean, half a day or so, and you're right back to doing it. So,
Right. Okay. Well, we'll check in with you again. You're still not missing it. You don't want to come back.
well, I mean, I definitely, I definitely miss like travel. Me and Pete have talked about this. I miss traveling down the trail with the dogs, the peace, quiet, all that. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I don't miss all the other stuff, the work, the grind.
Right. And the July still scooping poop.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still scooping poop. I still got a few retirees out here, but it's nothing like what it used to be.
All right, Richie.
So,
Hey, thanks, man.
all right, John.
You bet. See you.
Later.